Hello. That music got escalated really quickly. Sorry. How's everybody doing on this wonderful-ish Monday? I guess it would be morning for some and afternoons for others. How's it going? How's it going? Hi, 12 step. Glad you can make it. Single Mama 4, my lovely. Let's see, got Suzama. Suzama. I always call you Suzama. That's the other one. Suzanne. She's been my mod forever. I think I'm going to call her Mod Lightning or Mod Badass because she is. Hi, Linda. Hey, Suzama. The one I meant to say. Jennifer. NDJ. Hello. Dope Soul Girl. It's been crunk up in the Twitter streets lately. I'm not used to that. It's been a different kind of a world for me. Hi, The Right Reasons. Shani Jones. Hello, hello. So you're probably wondering why I have this thing in the background playing right now. And the reason why is because I did a members only live last night, and it was about astrology. It was very interesting. I had to brush up anyway for myself. And I was thinking like everybody doesn't understand what it looks like 3D wise, right? So when you look at like your birth chart and you see the on the left, you see it's all flat, right? Well, that's not really how it looks like. Hi, Gemini. It looks like the right, because that's reality. That's Earth spinning, tilted on its axis. And on the bottom there, you'll see the houses, the zodiacs, constellations. I know it looks really crazy, but that's what it really looks like. That's what it really is when you're looking at a birth chart on the left, all flat and boring like. Different perspective, huh? I just thought that was so cool that I found that. Because I'm a nerd, and that's, I'm a nerd. I can't help it. Anyway, I need to get a new camera, so you won't be seeing my face today. I don't know what's wrong with it. Typically, when I do a lot of EVP sessions, my cameras go to hell in a handbasket pretty habitually, because spirit and stuff. We were talking flat Earth theory yesterday. Barb. No, ma'am. Yeah, I don't talk no flat. Unless you're an anti-flat earther. That's great. Gemini 65. Hello, hello. All right. So we've had some, man, I'm telling you something. We had some interesting things happen the last 2 days, right? I specifically want to go over a person that came into a space, Twitter Spaces, with basically the Right Reasons team. I'll just say that. You guys should all know who that is. It's the Twitter team who has been baller at keeping up with as much as they can about the Michael Vaughan case and the inconsistencies, so on and so forth. And they are in chat right now, so everybody say hello. I really want to go over this space because I want you to hear it and see what you think without my judgment, right? To get your opinion, but I will give you the backstory. So basically, there is a PR person, sound familiar? Who is helping Brandy with some of the legislation side of getting more exposure, not only for Monkey being missing, but talking about the issues with the Amber Alert and the criteria, I can say at least that there is common ground with everyone on that we all want reform on the Amber Alert and the criteria that needs to be met. And I think that discretion should be pretty black and white. Like, there would not be much backlash, right, if you had to make a call. And I just, Idaho dropped the ball. However, on the other hand, we don't know what they know fully, right? So we really can't say that either. It is it's a hard one, all right? So having said that, let's get into it. Now, if you're not familiar, there's basically kind of this mob mentality going on where you have flying monkeys coming over to, Nicole's team, and not just Nicole's team, but anybody that bucks the system. Twitter weasel here. Is that Nicole? Are you the right reasons right now? I can't remember who's behind that, the right reasons, more than, I would assume you, Nicole. Yeah, so Slutty Goose or whatever she was called, she hosted it, and Lana Westbrook, she is the one that is the media marketing person for Michael's disappearance, and I'm assuming for Brandy and Tyler, getting legislation reform out there to talk to, certain bigwigs within that. So we'll go over it. Hold on to your hats. It's going to get emotional. It was the full moon, okay? It was at the peak. I'm gonna blame it on not only that, but there is a 5-year-old missing boy who has our hearts, and it feels like everybody's hearts are pushed in a blender every day that we don't get any information. And with the Amber Alert, it seems like at least there would have been a what if he would have been found had the Amber Alert gone off, because it's not about the Amber Alert being that much more different in a sense of alerting other organizations and law enforcement, because the missing and endangered persons alert or system does kind of the same thing. It's the notoriety of the Amber Alert. I can tell you that I have seen more Amber Alerts than missing and endangered persons alerts. That's for sure. Yeah, it was a full moon, girl. I was all in my feels. I had the delayed emotion, so I had it that night because I was crying while you were crying. I was like, look, let's just get it all out, right? Because I don't like to cry a lot. I really don't. Makes me kind of angry, actually. And then the next day, it just kind of lingered. So I had to really get it out. It was lingering, and I was mad. Like, I just couldn't focus on anything. I felt like depleted. It reminds me of basically every single missing child's case that has not made any headway in the last 2 years. It kills me every time. So I think it just kind of stacked to the point where I just couldn't. I had to get it out. But we have to be strong again, for these babies, and press on for them, right? Whew. But it's tough. It gets really hard. And I know that everybody feels that. I know they do. Yes, justice for Monkey. Justice for all missing children who didn't have... I'm not going to say that. It's very hard to say. I never want to be ugly, because we really don't know 100% what happened. So I'm just going to say that something so tragic happened to them where they cannot be in their norm. And you always wonder about all of the things that they're thinking and feeling. So anyway, this is why you see some of the, you might think that it's harsh, and you might think that people are being drama llamas or whatever, but at the end of the day, you do what you have to do to push that boundary within reason to possibly get a lead, tip, or anything to find these children. And so I don't apologize, and I don't think that these ladies have to apologize either, because all they're doing and all they have done is just put the stuff out there and ask questions, and they are the ones that are making sure that Michael isn't forgotten. I mean, I've had to jump in and say, I don't even care what they say. Like, I've never really had any responses, so I guess I'm doing a good job. These ladies are fierce. So let me get these spaces up, and then we're going to go over. So again, this is about Lana Westbrook. Again, kind of the PR rep. She's in media. I'm going to show you a few things that I found about her too, just so that you know when she says certain things like, I'm not here to be your best friend, to Brandy, about Brandy. I'll show you exactly why and some of the things that she's done. And and the reason why, it's not slander. I'm not trying to make her look bad. It's your character. Sometimes when you do shitty things to people, I don't care if it's your work or your personal life, when you do shitty things to people and then you get involved in very sensitive things like missing children, and you say these things and you back up, what you think you're doing to help with, honestly, coldness, and then I find proof that you have done this before or you have fucked people over before, I'm calling you out, man. We're not going to do that. You're not going to get your fame and fortune off of this missing little boy. I've seen it way too many times happen with other missing children. Kiss my ass. It's wrong. It's pathetic. I'm sorry. That is just how I feel. I will stick to those guns. Children first. Your feelings later, if ever. Makes me so mad. All right. Why am I not able to pull this up? Should not be this difficult. There it is. Catch up on Monkey's case. It is 4 hours long. I'm probably just going to kind of skip through where the meat and potatoes are. It's a very good live. It was very good. Very, very good. I've always wondered if there was a way to pop out spaces. I guess not. So I am going to speed up the everybody talking. So if you need clarification on what was said and you didn't hear it, just let me know. Because it is, again, 4 hours long. So I'll do my best to shorten it as much as I can. But this is a very, very, again, good live to listen to. It's good spaces to listen to. And you'll see why. I'm telling you. See if y'all can hear that.
Anybody have any to, in case my Walmart internet starts acting up? Do the hearts mean you want to co-host? They all stopped. What about raise your hand if you want to co-host? Is there any new information that we should be talking about? Tracked him.
We knew then it was a story, and I feel
on the couch playing his
Yeah, y'all can send it over if you want to.
What was the thing that Anita said?
However you want.
Oh, about them not being home. So that's something, I don't know if anybody else has looked into it any further, but that's something that I wanted to discuss
Can
was
everyone hear that okay?
what time the nanny got home. Well, what time the nanny got to their house, and the fact that the detective was there and Tyler and Brandy were not, um, and them having to be called back to the house. And I'm just wondering the timeline of that, if anybody has figured that out. Pam, we hear you.
I just wanted to tell you when Lana did PM me. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear
Okay,
you.
she did PM me and say that she may be like 30 minutes late. So I don't know if she's on here yet or not.
Yeah, she's not. She was on the tweets, but I guess she left and she'll be fashionably late.
It seems like that may be the case. Okay, that's what I wanted to tell you.
I wonder
Yeah,
if that was
so
just to
that's something
listen
that I
to
think
see what
is
was
important
going on
because
first
there's a couple
before
things
she
that's really
got
been like sticking in my head, and I've not been able to get them
blasted.
out of my head here the last couple of days. The first one, which was an issue for me prior to speaking to the nanny, was the story before leaving for work, before Brandy left for work, and knowing that
Hi, Ray.
the conversation that was had with the teenagers wasn't true. And so, just for whatever reason, and let me know if I'm like the only one, but something between that and the fact that the only description we have of every time that he was seen or spoken to, he was literally sitting on the couch playing with his Switch, makes me uncomfortable.
I wanted to play that because it does the same. I feel the same way, Nicole. Like, I feel the exact same way. It makes me very uncomfortable that that's the only thing that we know he was doing. But before he allegedly went outside, right? Like, did Tyler say anything about what he was doing during the day? Have we heard that? I haven't personally, or I don't remember hearing it in the lives. All I heard was that he was playing his Switch. I don't really hear much else. And that's concerning. Like, what was that it? Did you feed him lunch? What did he have for lunch? Did he take a bath? Whatever. I just feel like, sometimes when people distance themselves from these kind of little things that maybe not, they don't seem important, but they matter. I don't know. And as a mom, you don't have to be. I just know what I would do, okay? And I'm not trying to say that she should be saying this or that when it comes to it, but just, I would just be like, I asked Tyler on my 4 o'clock break, what's everybody been doing? Did you feed him lunch? Because you know how moms are. Did he have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Did he eat that ramen? Whatever. Just the lack of those kind of mummy things, I guess. I don't know. Is weird. But, at the same time, dads are kind of like, everything's fine. We're good. Got the baby. Baby's going to go down for a nap. I don't know. But I am one of those ask a billion questions and like my husband will say, we're fine, goodbye. You know what I mean? So, not trying to pick apart everything. I just really, that's how I feel, All right.
I feel like, I don't know what I feel like. I don't want to just, Andrea, you go ahead.
I just have a question because it keeps coming up. Can you explain who Ilda is, please? Because I'm confused. Thank you. That's it. That's all I want.
Oh, Lord. Listen
Ilda
to this.
is
Okay.
her supervisor.
Man, I've been talking to myself, y'all. Ugh, I hate it when I do that. Hate it. I was saying, no, that's me. It was me. I muted myself. Sorry about that. Ilda is the supervisor for Brandy, the boss. But I don't know if she was the boss for Tyler. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. But I just know that they all worked at the same place. And from what I hear, and people in the chat can verify this, they have also worked at Keystone Pizza together, her and Tyler. I don't know if it was different shifts or not. I could be wrong. I'll let chat clarify. The knowledge experts. And I also think they worked at a bar, some kind of something saloon together. So it just seems like I don't know why that would be. I mean, I've heard of especially like bartenders and their, because they usually meet their spouse somewhere along those lines, or especially if they're in the service industry. It's not unheard of, because I used to be a bartender, and now I'm an accountant for restaurants and bars, so I get it. I see it a lot. But just saying, I would want a little bit of get out of my face. It's just me though, you know. I cannot speak for others, right? I just thought it was a little weird. I don't know. Yeah, very codependent. That's a great way to say it. And the reason why I bring that up is because you kind of have to get an understanding of what their normalcy was, not because of them. I don't really care about their relationship woes or whatever. It's about knowing what the kiddos, but specifically Michael, was going through, you know. And then, you know, the shade thrown at the nanny and, you know, people that were around and supporting Brandy and Tyler and everybody, that kind of comes into play too, because you have to understand that the nanny was there helping with the kids, specifically Monkey, right? Because that's who we're talking about. That angle is important, because the things that you are going to hear about her, if you haven't, I'll clarify briefly. It's pretty upsetting. It's very upsetting. It hurt my feelings for her. Okay. So just keep that in mind. All right, I'm gonna go, because I know that this is gonna take forever if I don't shut up.
Albertsons.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Nobody else? I know everybody. So everybody has every single thing kind of figured out right now.
Girl, no. Mm-mm. Sure don't.
I think there's just so much stuff that it's just like, there's so many different things and everything keeps changing that it's just so, and we've gotten so much information. It's hard to keep it all straight and remember. I went all the way back to the December 19th space today, and I cut that audio up into like question by question increments. So
That's what I'm doing too.
That they can have it. But I feel like I'm like reliving all this all over again. Like I feel like I was in December. And MD, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I'm sorry, can you please just repeat what you said's been running through your head the past couple days? What did you say?
So something that's been bothering me is the fact that every time we hear about what Michael was doing that day, it was the same thing. So in the morning when Brandy left for work, he was sitting on the couch playing his Nintendo Switch. When she called on lunch, he was sitting on the couch playing his Nintendo Switch. Something about that, and the fact that the story was told on Chris McDonough that she actually spoke to older sister and kind of what everyone was doing, and knowing that older sister wasn't even there, it just makes me uneasy in terms of what Michael was doing, if that makes sense.
Right, yes. No, I agree with you. My personal opinion is the things that we hear repeatedly, the things that we hear that are repeated the same since back to November, I don't think those are true. I think that's part of the story. Does that make sense?
Like it's been thought over and over again in order to be the same, you mean?
Well, what I mean is, okay, we know that a lot of what they're saying isn't true. Like you pulled apart the streets. Like we had that question way back when, it was answered. People took it for gospel.
Okay,
because
sorry guys,
it
I
was
pinned
answered by
the
the people
membership.
that lived there. And then when others looked at it, and when I pulled up a map, and I was like, boom, well, that's not true. And then you started looking at other things they said, well, that's not true. So we found the holes in the story. But
Ooh,
we knew
Ivana's
then it
here.
was a story.
Hello.
And I feel like when I go back and listen
Hey,
to the
Brianna.
spaces that I had as memories, but now you are putting out the recordings, those things that I remember, I feel like the things that stay consistent are part of the story that the family made up to put out there. I don't know if I'm making
I
sense.
understand. Yeah, that's
Okay.
basically what I was saying. That's basically
Okay.
what I was saying. Kind of what we
Because those
reviewed.
things don't really change.
Right.
The only time they change is when she's pushed. And then when you push a little, because once you
Mhm.
find that little hole or that little drip, then you
We-
push,
yeah.
then the whole
I'm gonna skip over that. Not that I disagree. I do want to stick with, Lana coming on and some really good points that everybody brought up. Well done. Sometimes if I force it too much,
Her and
it
let her know
won't
she has
work.
to accept that so that we can talk.
to the national.
That's all I have.
This doesn't have to do with Facebook, but I did mention in a tweet, I think, that in reference to what someone said the other day about how the updates were taken down, but just current information. Like since News Nation went out there and did, since Markey or whoever News Nation went out there and actually did a piece on this, why we can't have News Nation go out and just re-up their piece with the current FPD information, maybe pointing out the fact that the updates
Hey,
have been
Dory.
taken down, pointing out some facts, and just maybe how little is out there, maybe just to bring it back into the national spotlight. Does that make
Okay, so I wanted to kind of skip on. I have my little timeline here. Marky Martin, is that her name? She called Brandy and talked to her, what was it, in December, and asked her some questions that, again, made everything muddled. And here's what I wanted to bring up about that kind of concerns me. I should probably go to YouTube. Twitter, excuse me. She probably has it on there. I forget her name. I want to say Marky Mark. Is it Marky? Like Marky? Martin. Yeah. I want to call her Marky Mark because, I'm old. I'm an old lady. And I wonder, it was back in December, so it would have to be. I'm not following her. What is wrong with me? I thought I did. Or maybe it would be on News Nation. Right? She said something specific about why Tyler wasn't speaking out. Was it December 7th? No, she went to Idaho, right? And talked to her. And it was very interesting what I heard. Was it News Nation or just... I think it's this one, isn't it? Yeah.
Of flakes that signal Christmas. Meet us outside their home in Fruitland.
It's pretty hard. I don't even think hell is up. And please, please, please help me. Please.
Full of concern for you as his mom.
Every day. When the leaves started to change, I lost my mind. I can't.
Sadly, the grieving mother can't put life on hold while she waits for her little boy to come home. She continues going to work.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Anyway, you're just going to have to trust me here. Basically, she said that Tyler wasn't able to come on and speak about anything because he was having so much backlash at one point, and the anxiety and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that he was unable to come out and speak on behalf of his missing 5-year-old. So And that's been said before, but I wanted y'all to see Marky Martin say that. But I promise you she did, if you want to go look it up. Yeah. I don't understand. I will never. Because and I'm not trying to shame anybody. I know that some people do have anxiety and whatever. But my husband does too, and he's very type A, and he would do it. He was like, I would go out there after work. He even said, "F you," like to me, like don't give a shit what you need. Like it's about our son, because we have a son, and he would be out there until he couldn't anymore, every day. And that was my husband. I didn't coerce him to say that. Again, I am trying to compare, damn it. I'm not gonna lie. I am comparing. It is what it is. That will be and always will be something damning against them. Period. It is what it is. There's been multiple outcries to say, what can we do to help? I've even said it. I know they've said it. Twitter. Everybody has. What can we do to help you to get to the point where you can go out there and do what you got to do? Including your dad, the grandfather. What can we do to help? What can we do to get you out there? What do we have to do? I made a video pleading. And if it's something more than that, and I don't mean like, guiltiness or anything, but if it's like, look, law enforcement's got some things going on, or we can't discuss it, just hang tight. That's something. That is something. And you owe it to the taxpayers. You owe it to the taxpayers of the state of Idaho, who are not only paying the salaries of everyone who works in law enforcement, but they're also paying to make sure that their children are safe too, and answers. Do they need to worry? Do they need to be more safe? It's injustice for other people too, because they don't want their kids to be victims too. And living in fear is taxing, literally taxing. And I live in a metropolitan area, so anytime something goes sideways, I'm like, get in the house and we're not leaving the room until this is solved, Yeah. I know there's a lot going on. I know you got a family. I know you all have a family. But I just don't see that would be enough. So, damn it, I keep getting on these rants, but it's just so hard not to. All right. My bad, y'all.
Makes sense.
It does. I think that's something that would be worthwhile. And she's apparently reached out to a bunch of news stations, and she's going to let us know what they were. But I know not the one, but there were a couple where it's been mentioned, and people have actually gotten responses back. And it's kind of like there's absolutely no new information, so there's nothing to update. I know that CBS, I believe it is, just did like an update, but it was a very quick, like, he's still missing. There's nothing new. They suspended ground searches, and that was kind of all. But I don't know. Part of me thinks maybe there's something we don't know about, is why that's not happening, why they're not updating. I don't know. Mike?
Hey guys, how's everyone doing this evening? Just my perspective on the Facebook of the community that's on Facebook. That community on Facebook is probably being driven by Brandy's narrative. So once again, if anyone goes in there and makes a suggestion or makes a post,
I'm curious.
Just say, amount of work that you guys have done on the
Facebook page is like the only way to kind of get a hold of.
Probably if they're giving out information that has already been confirmed by law enforcement and the other agencies involved, then I mean they're fighting a dead horse. So I won't get too excited about that. And then the other things I wanted to say, I'm going to wait until Lena speaks, because I want to hear what she has to say before I say anything else about the Amber Alert stuff. Probably if they're giving.
it's kind of strange that, like, that's the first thing I would do is make the news aware that we're having to go to a congressman and fight for an Amber Alert, or get his picture on the news. Like, I just don't. It's really baffling. I can't think of any, and maybe somebody else can, but I can't think of any other time where there's been a case, at least since I've been here, where there's been absolutely no update whatsoever.
Great observation. The Kaylee Anthony case was national. It was from Florida. And it was national. You heard about it all the time. All the freaking time. And that was right. That was the right thing, right? They also had, Zanny the nanny who abducted her, which triggered that alert, right? So there was that. But there should be no reason why the news media isn't covering it unless they're just getting a big fat no from the higher ups because maybe law enforcement is saying shut up. We don't know. Because it's very hard for me to get any responses most of the time. Or it's thank you. We'll look into it. However, there have been some bites. And we're going to get into that. And Nicole and some others are going to say, proof is in the pudding and the secret's in the sauce. And she did not have a fork to dig into. Let's get into it.
With a missing child, it's strange to me. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Nicole. So, I'm not nearly up to speed.
This is a great
you guys are, but
point.
the amount of work that you guys have done and the incredible data that you have, that's shocking between all of you. When you were talking about, when you both were just talking about, how do you get law enforcement's attention? How do you get people's attention? Because this is stuff that needs to be known. And, one thing you might want to think about is if you put this together as if you were dropping off a case file to an FBI office or something, and you put, you actually have it like that, but then you put a website together, you could run local media spots on cable TV that just target those zip codes. I know people do it. It costs like $5 or $6 per ad. You could just make in Adobe Premiere, put together a cheap audio or commercial, just driving, saying something about if you want further information on this case, and drive, that will get media attention. That'll definitely get the FBI's attention. They'll be like, what the hell is going on here? And for like $300 or $400, you could run probably 50 commercials in that are targeted just that zip code right around where he went missing. And that might be a good way just to get some media involved and see the data that you guys have, which is so conflicting with what they have, and it could turn snowball. You could probably do the whole thing for less than $400 or $500.
I would have never ever thought of that ever. That's actually a really good idea. So it would like come up in their commercials, or they would have to go to like their.
Yeah. So on cable TV, when you're watching cable stations, those advertisers, they're not being shown like around the world or across the country. There's people, they're called direct response ads, and you can buy.
That is an excellent idea. I don't know if you've dived into that anymore, but yeah, I think Nerdy Addict is doing that kind of a thing, right? Right now, where he's not just using like missing child as the algorithm target audience. He's using whatever metropolitan areas or specifically targeted areas, whatever is going on at that specific time. He's using those. Like, let's just say it's the Big Bean Festival for the next 3 weeks. That is the algorithm that it's going to hit because everybody goes to the Big Bean Festival. And then Michael's face shows up. It's perfect. It's brilliant. And I think we should really look into that. It's a great idea.
By just zip codes. You could isolate an ad just to a certain zip code. So let's say it's, I don't know what it is in that part of the country, but let's say out here it's Charter. So you can go to Charter and you can say, I want to target just the Venice Beach. And so you can isolate it to that. It's like $7 or $8. And you could target, you can then pick what channels you want to run on. So you can run it on the true crime, during which shows. And
all the time. I know that from recordings. I mean, that's where she gets her information. Like when she talks about this board and what Nita said and things like that. So that's troubling to me.
Her and her buddy Uncle Si, so
yeah,
before we get into Lana Westbrook, I think she's in it, what, like 40, 50 minutes, something like that. I always have a question about, not that it's a big deal, but I've always wanted to know who the man is that donated to the billboard to keep it up, the digital billboard or the electronic billboard in Ontario, Oregon. I've always wanted to know who did that, so it's wonderful. Could not be more grateful. But I've always wanted to know who that was from the dealership that Brandy was talking about. Because that's so damn generous. Like, you'd have to be either a really, really well-to-do person, or if the dealership is like, you know, well-to-do in that in the chain sense, right? Oh, the car dealership owner, yeah. The only one that I could think of that's close is the Chevrolet dealership, because they do give like certain, you know, I saw one that was a scholarship for one of the winners of something. I can't really remember exactly, but there's a really nice one, a Chevrolet dealership that I'm assuming it might be. I don't want to make assumptions or be wrong, but it's just interesting to know, because maybe, you know, there's more to it in the funding sense with other things, which would be important, because there's a lot of muckiness and cloudiness when it comes to the situations with, you know, donations and funding and t-shirt sales and who's working, who's not working. And it does kind of, you have to kind of consider that to know where everybody stands, because these are people's money that are going into the family. And, you know, where's the private investigators? Where, you know, you got to ask these questions, because again, I will always drive this point home. You have to understand how much it costs. Not that it's totally worth it always for each and every child, but you have to understand that there's a cost associated with that. And if you're okay with you know, that, then you need to also be very considerate about what you can do, like private investigator. Shit, we're doing it for free, so over on this side of the realm. But, you know, someone that can work with law enforcement, maybe. And if they don't, if the PI and the law enforcement officers won't work together, that's an answer right there. It's a big answer. And we have not heard shit about that ever being an option. I'd give my legs up. I don't care. I would sell my legs to do anything I could. You know who's a perfect example? Go to Sean Paul Schulte's Facebook page and see how hard that man works to get justice for Kylan Schulte and Crystal Turner. And I'm helping him as much as I can with social media and stuff. It's awful, but he literally day and night fights for these girls. And he's a hero.
And
Wait, can I interrupt? That's the complete opposite of Detective Crimin. Like, he would not say anything.
and from what I understand, he
doesn't give updates. But as far as the local PD,
she's back. Go ahead, Eve.
Hey, get people's attention where they'll go, hey.
I just wanted to chirp in there and point out, you know, some of those discrepancies. It was on our radar from the very get-go, you know, and we brought the dogs in and we didn't find any drugs. She did tell me that it was verified Brandy was at work all day.
Okay, this is what I wanted everybody to hear. What was her name? Andrea that was speaking? Oops. Was that her name, Nicole? The one that spoke to the detective? Athena, Athena. I think that's her speaking.
You're watching cable stations. Those advertise country, but let's say out here it's charter, and pick what channels you want to get.
Sorry, guys.
That's a really good idea.
With that, and just
not been released publicly. It seemed pretty unprofessional, in my opinion.
As if you were on cable TV, that just saying, you know, something 50 commercials in that ball, you know, you
trigger happy. Sorry, guys.
$400.
I would have never ever
You're widely isolated to that information.
Why?
I don't. They don't have codes, and they're not going to say no. Just saying, wherever facts that are directly, where they're going to accept.
Yeah. Athena, you had your hand up.
Hi.
Got it.
So I've been really hesitant to speak on spaces. I live locally, and due to all the threats going on with everybody, but I did want to touch on one thing. I had made a phone call to the Fruitland Police Department with a tip.
Listen up.
And I spoke to Detective Juanita Toll, and it was a pretty interesting conversation because she told me a lot of things that have not been released publicly. It seemed pretty unprofessional, in my opinion. Very defensive of the parents. These are grieving parents, and they've lost a child, and all this speculation isn't helping, and blah blah blah. And I pointed out to her. I said, well, if it was an accident that happened, the grief would be real. If he'd gotten into drugs or something like that. And she said, well, that was on our radar from the very get go. And we brought the dogs in, and we didn't find any drugs. She did tell me that it was verified Brandy was at work all day. She claims it was verified. He was seen by neighbors. She said that they weren't suspects, but then later, and she also denied that Tyler failed a polygraph test, but then later said that Tyler was a suspect, and that they would be interested in information on him.
That's a very big claim to me. I'm sorry, that's huge. And which also throws a wrench, I think purposefully. I really wish she would have recorded that, because Idaho is a one person recording state where you can, as long as you agree to it, you're good. Or one person on the call. How do you deny that he failed, but then Brandy is specifically stating he is? It's so muddled, and I think it really is on purpose. How are you a suspect at first, and then this doesn't make any sense. And I really think it's on purpose. I really do. Because we don't know. I mean, I trust this lady. I don't have any reason not to. But maybe that's to throw everybody off. Maybe that was because we know that she's going to go say something to other people. Because of the amount of stuff that this lady is saying, that the Detective Juanita Toll is saying, it's just keep listening. Hi, Kim.
Meanwhile, she told me that Jennifer was cleared, that the Honda Pilot was no longer in question. And she said that, as far as Michael being seen by neighbors and the Honda Pilot, that could all be verified on the Fruitland police page, which, as we know, everything's been taken down.
That is not true.
I just wanted to add that in, that, she seemed very biased, in my opinion. And if she's leading this case, it was concerning to me, because I feel like she definitely has blinders on. So that was all I had to add.
This is the same one that comments on Brandy's Facebook posts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen her. I know that name, and I know that that's who that is, but which is interesting. But what's also interesting is I'm curious why they would direct your attention for the answers to your questions to a page that they should know good and damn well does not contain anything, let alone the answers. That doesn't make any sense.
And what Nicole is referencing, if you haven't read every single thing, which is only two things, from the Fruitland PD, and it is that they do not have the Honda Pilot or any vehicles in question on either of the documents. Again, the briefing and then the update. There's nothing. And there's nothing that says what was the other one? I just forgot it. She's misleading. I mean, you can't tell people to go and look at the Facebook page and the fruitland.org information about Michael when it's not there. And if you don't know it's there, what do you do? And it's funny because, like I said a week or two ago, I think checking convictions, I asked that retired cop, what do you do when if you think someone is incompetent or a conflict of interest? And he specifically said you got to go to the state police and open an investigation and make a report. And you have to have receipts on why you think this. Well, unfortunately, things have been hidden or deleted, or comments have been shut down on the page. So I don't know if there was stuff there that you could use, but this is ridiculous. I don't have a problem. I mean, doing what I got to do, but at the same time, I don't want things getting out of hand. If I do that, then it might blow something up. So this is where law enforcement's kind of, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But at the end of the day, you still have to think about Michael. And no one's searching. No one's doing physical things anymore. So are we really just boofing it and protecting someone who might know or be a potential predator, and we're just waiting for that moment? Or is it intentional? So to be honest with you, it's more important for me to act accordingly. Because the what ifs later, if you didn't do it, would be, I think, more hurtful than the other way around. And we're not law enforcement. It's their job to handle shit that comes their way. There's nothing illegal about wanting to make sure that this case is being handled properly. And that's why they have these tiers to do it. So, I don't know. That's just a thought to have. I can leave it there.
I agree. I was pretty baffled. Like I said, she kind of went in circles, around herself, first off saying the parents weren't suspects, but then saying, well, Tyler hasn't been ruled out and, they're very interested in him. And, but then claiming that he passed his polygraph, which we heard right from Brandy's mouth, he did not. So I don't know if she's out of the loop on things. I really didn't know how to take that. If she's leading the investigation, she should know the answers to that. But I was just surprised because she had diarrhea of the mouth. She did more talking than I did and was like almost trying to just justify to me why my theory or idea, that he could have gotten into drugs was not plausible.
Well, that worries me in terms of people calling in tips and getting her direct line.
Right.
Because if we're closed off to potential suspects or leads or people of interest, for whatever reason, I just feel like that concerns me.
Right. And I'd given her an area that some specific areas I thought might need to be looked at again. And she said, we've already taken the dogs there. That was our first thought, and I pointed out that there's been plenty of stories where people have been right there and the dogs have missed them. There's been multiple stories this year I read of fentanyl overdoses with toddlers. It takes a very small amount to take down a grown man. A child finding pills or something like that. They were just ideas that I've thought about a lot in this case because, if the parents are covering something up, why would they cover it up? So to me, I think of something along those lines, something that would implicate them or, have their children removed, jail time, etc. And so, yeah, she just seemed very defensive. So I just wanted to chirp in there and point out, some of those discrepancies.
So, and this is the detective that she speaks with all the time. I know that from recordings. I mean, that's where she gets her information, like when she talks about this board and what Nita said and things like that. So that's troubling to me.
Her and her buddy Uncle Si, so
yeah, and
Wait, can I interrupt? That's the complete opposite of Detective Crimin. Like, he would not say anything.
And from what I understand, she's not spoken to Crimin. And Crimin's board says something different. So,
well, it's vastly different than a different detective I'd spoken to on the case. He was very quiet and just kind of let me rattle on, even when I paused, like to get some input. He was doing that whole ploy, and I was just like, okay, I'm kind of, wanting some feedback here. So I was totally shocked when I called and got Detective Toll, and she's just telling me all this stuff that's none of my business, as a member of the public. So,
and if it's not a big deal to share it to where you could have literally been anyone. I mean, you could. Right. I mean, they don't know who you are. I assume.
No. I wish I'd recorded the call. I had no expectation that I would be told all this stuff, and I'm like, what? Like, why would she be telling me that?
Yeah, because if it's no big deal to hold on to, because that throws the entire thing out the window where they're keeping it close to the vest, because it's obviously not true if you can get lucky enough to call and speak to one person who's the lead detective on the case and get all the information. So
and she did say, I'll add this last piece that I'd forgotten. She did say that she believed he was abducted and it was just going to take that one person, and they had leads they were following, and that's how the Honda Pilot came up, because I had asked her about it,
and that right there is how cases go cold. Right there. If what Athena, who was talking, is saying is true, that is literally how cases go cold. When you say, we just got to wait for that one tip. Because that means either you don't have shit yet, or you're lying. That's it. And not everybody is okay with that, obviously. Not everybody is okay with sitting idly and waiting. And I can guarantee you that it's not going to be accepted very well if that's the case. And the public has every right to say that is doo-doo. And they have. Because there's no transparency. If there really wasn't anything, or whatever, and it was getting to the point where it could go cold, there would be a lot more discussion with law enforcement or an update. And so that's why I'm not going to say anything else. Draw your own conclusions. Yes, her other sister Amber from the Facebook page did fly there on 8/16. Yes. Was that from Tennessee? Is that the one from Tennessee? Yeah. Either that or I think it's Tennessee. Could be wrong. Gemini 65. It is so odd. But that
She
was
said no, that
important.
the Honda Pilot had been identified.
So then I wonder if that's where signals are getting crossed. Oops, I muted thank you. Whichever one of my co-hosts knew I was going to hit the wrong button. I was trying to bring Lana, she'll have to tell us, but I was trying to bring her up here and I ended up shutting everybody up. But I wonder if that's where everyone's signals are getting crossed in terms of different platforms and things like that. So for instance,
Missouri. Got it.
someone calls and speaks to her and is given all of the same information that you were given, but then someone calls and speaks to, say, Crimin, let's just say, and he's the other lead detective, and he says, nobody's been ruled out, and then, like, that's the end of it, and you hang up the phone. So now we've got two different people on two different platforms given two different pieces of information. It doesn't make any sense. If what Juanita is saying is true, and she's freely giving that to an unknown person on the phone with no face, then I think that it would be appropriate to have a press conference and share all that information. And if she believes that he was abducted, then I'm not really sure where this email is coming from, where they're saying that Fruitland is the lead, and they, what's the exact word? I'm going to find it, but because I wanted to talk to Lena about it, but whatever they said about they have absolutely no proof that there's been an abduction. So who are they talking to? Who is everyone talking to? And where's the Josh? Like, do they have a Josh? Because that's what we need.
What we really need is, we need media. This is their job to get clarification. And if that clarification is we don't have anything for you, we will update accordingly. That is an update from media to us. Media is supposed to be kind of like our third party, especially with the investigative journalists. Like, so you have to wonder if the media is even being misled in some way, you know what I mean? Or if they just truly don't have anything. However, we did recently see a tweet where there was mention of things in motion, and that was all that was basically said, and that this person would be quiet, but that, this person really hopes that things go well and that they're thinking about this little boy. So I guess, honestly, at this point, and then I'm going to move into the Lana Westbrook stuff. Honestly, what I feel, guys, is that behind the scenes is key. I'm just going to say that. Behind the scenes is key. Observe, keep your hopes up high and your head down low, and truck on and zip it. I really think that is the key. I actually know it is because I got chills. Because Spirit is around saying, you're right, girl. Everybody just needs to work. You better work. And let things play out. It's like, I'm going to just put my personal life out here for a second. Like, I used to kill him with kindness, like an ex when we were fighting. Silence kills, the guy because he's like, what's going on? I don't know what she's planning. I'm freaking out. Yeah, that's what I'll say. That's what I'm going to say. Because at this point, sorry, my stomach is growling. There's really nothing else. It's just going to keep being this cycle of bullshit where you don't know where you're going, just like unfortunately, with Summer Wells. It's just going to be the same thing. So why waste your energy? Nicole says, so then why is Juanita Toll sharing info freely to people calling if they're keeping it close to the vest? Shh. Telling you. We don't know. We don't know what's true and what's not. I mean, unless that person recorded the call or has direct information, or maybe even a call log would help. You kind of can't trust shit. And I'm not saying that Athena's not trustworthy. I don't even know her, but we just can't go on it. We just can't go on anything. And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. I think at this point, you just work. You just do your thing. And that's why you have those trolls coming into Twitter, because they want you to slip. They always want to know what you're thinking and doing and what your next step is. And it's blatantly obvious that's what's going on right now. Especially with, the manager from Albertsons. Like, it's very inappropriate the way that you're acting. I'm just going to say it. I don't care what you think about anybody else. It's inappropriate. That shit over there is insane. And it's very telling. So I'm going to skip to
Investigate the whole process of that whole
where Lana Westbrook, I'm going to call Lana, she is the Tim Mullen of Michael's case. And let me tell you how I want to vomit right now saying that. Because we do not need that. We do not need that. And at least Tim tried to act like he cared a little. At least he had like a moment of clarity to try to look like he cared. Lana does not care. And you'll see why.
I'm lost in some instances, but that's all I have to say. I appreciate.
like this past week was regarding the criteria. So that, okay. So, okay.
Say that you couldn't comment on them. I haven't looked.
Want that to happen because about I'm lost in some instant.
While we were talking, I did a quick search on Facebook for Detective Juanita Toll, and there is a post from 2019 about her where comments are open. And I was just sitting here thinking, there's nothing stopping us from putting any comments on any post that they have regarding Michael. I think maybe that would get their attention where they need to address some of these questions and address the public. I used it before in a simple idea that.
Those are the only two that unmute yourself. I don't know how much you know about Twitter.
Hi, it's Lana. Hi,
Lana, I've been, truth be told, as soon as we started, I said we're gonna have to ask her because I'm not
Lana.
sure how to say her name. I've
Lana
learned for
Westbrook.
months. So we're happy to have you. If you want to tell everybody kind of who you are, what you do, and what you've been doing, just so we kind of know.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name's Lana. I grew up in Payette, Idaho, which is neighboring to Fruitland, where Michael went missing. My father was a police officer, and my mother works at the hospital across the river in Ontario. So as a single mom, this little face pops up. We have mutual friends, right? Michael looks just like my son. That's what pulled me into it. And also just everyone, I probably have 3 or 4 people I went to school with that works right around. And
by the way, she said that, yet when I said that and, Nicole talked about her situation that I won't go into with her son, we got bashed hardcore by some person over there and made it a negative that we were heartfelt and we understood how heartbreaking this situation is. And we got shamed for that. And then Lana comes on and does the same thing, and she's the saint of the group. And this is the kind of shit that you see going on over and over and over. And, I hate to break it to you, people, whoever's listening, if you thought that this was not like a Summer Wells case, think again. Think again. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it's becoming this way because of it's the same type of back end bullshit, but with a different face and a little bit more cleaned up act. Sorry. It is what it is. But these kids are suffering because they're not home and nobody knows where they are.
in Albertson. So I started to see posts, my heartstrings are getting pulled. And like many people, you sit and you wonder, how can this happen and what can I do to help? I work in marketing and PR professionally. I have for a very long time, and I have a lot of contacts in the Treasure Valley in regards to media due to work in nonprofit as well. So I just started doing that, and I joined the community group on Facebook and started, sharing information, sharing pictures, sharing what I can. That morphed a little bit because personally, as a mother, I became irate that an Amber Alert had not been issued. And the more I saw on the news about that, the more I looked into it. So basically, I just became more of a volunteer media and PR person. And in no way am I officially representing them. I want to make that clear. I have spoken to the family. We can get more into that when it comes to like interviews and setting those things up, of course. But it's not anything where I've been contracted or that. It was literally volunteer, like most of you. So yeah, I think that kind of sums it up, maybe to start.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So okay, so I've seen you post about the Amber Alerts.
Yes.
Oh wait a second. Mike has a question. Let's do that before we go on to the Amber Alerts. Go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, Nicole. No, go ahead.
Okay.
When you're done talking, I just want to put my hand up so I can talk after you do.
Okay. So in terms
Okay.
of Amber Alert, what all has been done? Like, when did you kind of jump in?
I want to say I started asking questions about October-ish when I started to see it kind of being spoken a little more around the neighborhood. And I think formally November, December for myself, I really started to interject was around the time I started to email when I saw that, the Fruitland police had said in a couple different news articles, I think maybe KTVB or one of the local news stations had quoted them or said something about them requesting the Amber Alert a couple of times and that it was denied at the state level. And that's when I just started to look into that process a little more. And I actually, as a community member and emailed them and said, hey, Idaho State Amber Alert Coordinator, I don't agree with your decision. I think Michael deserves an Amber Alert. And I sent you that image today for the response that I got. Nicole, I think you shared that. So I just really started to push more at that point. I have a family who have worked in legislation, a cousin that worked at a state page. So I just reached out and said, hey, what do we do? How do we make this happen? I've seen in other states that congressmen got involved because it's a federal program. And so we found out who was a congressman for Michael's district, and that's Congressman Russ Fulcher. And there's an application on the website to meet with him where your personal identifying information has to be put in this application. So I could not fill it out and say, hey, Congressman, please meet with the family. So I sent this on to Brandy. Brandy and Tyler have filled that out. We got an email response from the office profusely apologizing for Michael not getting an Amber Alert and that they would like to look into it. And so we are currently scheduling that meeting with Congressman Fulcher's office right now to ask him to please investigate this decision that was made at the state level or investigate the whole process of that whole Amber Alert, what happened and why, and, this criteria that they're standing behind and what needs to change. So this can happen for Michael and for every other child in our state.
So I have a question and then a
yes
that I've just recently found out actually.
Okay.
So the question is, do you have the response from his office, from the congressman's office, assuring you or them? I'm assuming it went to Brandy and Tyler.
Yes, I do have it.
Okay. So, that they were going to look into it. And then
Yep.
did they specify a certain amount of time, give us 30
No,
days?
what happened was, so in that email, they gave the family some dates, hey, if you could come to the office in Meridian on these dates. And what I know where it's currently at is that, Brandy and Tyler are going to both attend this meeting, and they are going to have a third individual is going to go with them. So that way, when it gets emotional, this person can keep the conversation about the Amber Alert, etc. And so Brandy is currently trying to coordinate 3 schedules within the times that were given to them. And I think and then they'll have something confirmed. But that's where it's at with their office right now.
Okay. And then something that we just recently found out, this past week, was regarding the criteria. So that alert, what was it? The code red or whatever.
Right. There was a missing person or a missing person alert or a missing endangered alert or something different that was issued. And then there was a code red alert that was issued. And I'm not an expert on these alerts. My understanding from just sticking my nose into it, investigating is some of those were just countywide. But I know those were issued as well.
Yeah. So whichever one they said is exactly the same. And they wrote it in every email to everybody that here about the Amber Alert. They said that it's just as effective, blah, blah, blah. Well, just recently come to find out the criteria for it and the Amber Alert are exactly the same.
Oh, I did not know that. I've actually, thank you. I will look inside because I didn't know.
I'm sorry. I knew that. So I just put up Lana, who said, I believe that they're doing everything they can to find Michael, et cetera, et cetera. They're doing everything they can. I believe investigators doing all they can. Daddy. Saying how if you want the most accurate information on her Twitter page, if you want the most accurate information, go to that page. And let me pull that back up, sorry. Like, that's the page that has the most accurate information. We're being told to go to those two sources, fruitland.org and the Facebook page for updates. And not one time does it clarify the damn Honda Pilot. It doesn't. And then you have this vague ass video. Let me find it. Let's start from the beginning on this one. I am blown away. Watch this.
Where you can always find me.
Oh, sorry, that was really freaking loud and blew my ears off. Hold on. I couldn't even click on the pause button quick enough. Your perpetrator? What the bleep is this? Guys, I am about to get so fucking pissed off. I'm so sick of this shit. This isn't funny. Why would you approve this? This isn't necessarily accurate unless they put it on the Facebook page. Let's go look and see if they have. Like, what is going on? Because you're really about to piss off the wrong one. That's not threatening. I have so much. I have so much information on how to do this and that and the other and report. You just don't know. And when you do shit like that on purpose, it's to poke the bear. You're poking the bear. Poking the bear. So let's go look. This shit pisses me off so bad. Because if somebody did that and my child was missing, putting somebody in danger like that, I would go off. I would go off. Oh, I think it's police department. There's Juanita, by the way. Juanita Toll. She is one of the two detectives. That is her. Been with them for 10 years now. Ooh. I don't see anything new. Nothing. And I check this all the time. It's so misleading. Like, who? I mean, I know who to go to, but it's almost like, when should we? Yeah. And I'm not going to insinuate shit. That's just how I feel. Nothing. Nothing. There is nothing. I swear to God, I will put Honda. 0. I will even put Pilot. 0. Just to make sure I have this documented on live. So everybody can see that I'm not making it up, because I'm sure there's a creator that rhymes with schmishmalis, true crime, that's going to try to mislead this shit. Hi, Tracy. Hi, everybody that's come in that I haven't said hello to. I'm sorry I'm a little feisty today. Got an Aries moon, okay? I'm an Aquarius with an Aries moon. I'm a little feisty from time to time, the majority of the time. A statement from Fruitland. Thank you for everyone. Please hit the like button or dislike, whatever you prefer. And subscribe if you want to see Eve go pop off from time to time. It's kind of interesting. You never know. Let me see. I'm going to hit the find button because, you know, technology. Honda. 0. Pilot. 0. Vehicle. Nothing. Smallest, yes. I don't know, guys. What do you think? What do you think about that? I've spent a good 10 hours of my own damn time looking for Honda pilots before I found these beautiful ladies. So I think at this point, it's gotten out of hand. It's getting out of hand. And it's very obvious. This is ridiculous. What does this mean? What is this doing? What is this doing? I would have, if I did not know Michael, I would have no fucking clue what this is. I seriously wouldn't. And I also would look at these colorful and beautiful, mind you, because it has Monkey's face on it. These posters, I'm sorry, they look like party invitations to a birthday. And I hope that he comes back so that you can do that for real. But they're so misleading. And that's why they want you to use theirs, officials, because you know when you see that badge on the top or PD or in big letters, whatever, you know that that's official and that's important. But I'm thinking that there's a, you know, kids party that somebody wants me to go to, and I'm like, no thanks. And a lot of people agree. And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying, like, go with what your law enforcement's telling you to do, unless they're not, and they're misleading everybody. And that's what they want. I'm telling you. This is so textbook how cases go cold. I'm telling you. You got the potential mishandling of the case here and the parents not being... It's John Benet Ramsey without being so severe. I'm telling you, it's so typical. Just different little bitty, you know, details. I'll probably get a copyright for that song for using it on YouTube, but what the fuck? This is just wrong. All right. Off of that, I just can't take it anymore. There's things to do.
So that the criteria, what really lit me up on that email, there's several things in that email that lit me up, but what really got me was standing behind the term criteria to begin with, because if you even look on the National Amber Alert website, they are suggested guidelines, and it says here's the suggested guidelines for the states to utilize when a situation occurs, you know, and you might need to use the Amber Alert system. And then if you further even look, the Idaho website as well, and I'm paraphrasing, but I think they have the same verbiage, that these are suggested criteria or suggested guidelines or something like that on Idaho as well. So it's my understanding from both those websites that these are suggested guidelines. The only real requirement to an Amber Alert, from what I have found, is that law enforcement needs to feel that a child is missing and endangered and requests the Amber Alert, which
Right.
which happened. So that
which
night.
means, which, just to be clear, like, which means FPD.
Fruitland Police Department or the lead investigators that night would have had to request it. And I've not, just to be clear, I've not spoken to Fruitland Police Department. I've not spoken to them about the case. This is the information that I got from the KTVB article where they were quoted talking about this. And then I've also heard several.
Then how can you say, and I know we're talking about the Amber Alert legislation stuff, I'm talking about you telling people to go to this Facebook page for accurate information when it's clearly not. Like how can you say that? I'm not even confident in your ability to really know what you're talking about on a simple Facebook page where law enforcement is saying these things. So if you haven't talked to them, you're talking to Brandy. That's what it is. You're talking to Brandy. And you specifically said on that Facebook post, I have no reason to believe that they are. She said, I have every reason to believe that they are cooperating and doing everything to bring Michael home. It's not true. Can't be true because it's misleading information.
Interviews and watch the press releases as well where they talked about the Amber Alert. So, so I believe that Fruitland Police Department or a lead investigator within that 12-hour, criteria would have to initiate the alert, request it up the line to the Idaho State Amber Alert Coordinator, who is Tania Parmenter.
Yes.
And so that person would have taken the alert and then therefore, initiated it onto the full system.
So in order to get it going, Fruitland Police Department are the ones who would have to meet that requirement of believing that he was abducted.
Yes, that's my understanding from what I have learned in the process. Somebody, well, no, not abducted. That's the thing. That's where Idaho State Police throws this word in that they have to believe he was abducted, and that is not the case. The Amber Alert system even stands for, it's not just Amber Hagerman, as you all know, and many might not realize, it stands for America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response, not America's Proven Abducted System. The little boy that night we knew to be missing and endangered. The police knew him to be missing and endangered. He was 5 years old. He's not vacationing in Mexico with a girlfriend. They wanted the Amber Alert. They didn't get it because Idaho State Police said, where's your proof that he's abducted?
Right. So that's kind of where I guess I'm losing you, because I feel like if Fruitland believes him to have been abducted.
Believed him to be missing and endangered that night. They believed him to be missing and endangered and requested the Amber Alert. You don't have to have proof of an abduction to get an Amber Alert. It's a missing and endangered alert system. It's not proven abduction. And it's my understanding that night they believed Michael to be missing and endangered enough to where they requested, and I don't know if it was Fruitland Police or a lead investigator, but somebody that night initiated the system. Where it stopped was at the Idaho State Police level, where they said, no, this doesn't meet our state criteria. We don't have proof of an abduction, and however they phrased it in that email.
Okay. I'm going to let somebody ask a question because Z News.
Hi, Lana, so glad you could join us. And I know that lots of us here feel really passionately about Amber Alert reform. And I think this has really highlighted that a lot. I mean, there's no way that a 5-year-old is like a runaway and is safe on their own. Absolutely no way. And so I personally believe, and I know a lot of the other folks here, have sent emails, have made calls, and are really frustrated with that system, that policy, and are dedicated to changing it. I mean, personally, I think that there should be, possibly like a limit, like under 10, like anybody who's missing should get an Amber Alert. I mean,
I want to let you know, I want to interject real quick. Brandy has written out and has a plan for asking the congressman for a law for at least Idaho to be under 8, but we agree with you on that. 8 to 10 somewhere, and under all should get an Amber Alert. Yes.
Totally. And I actually tweeted out and copied in everybody I could find who works for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Everyone I could find who works there, I copied them. No one, of course, replied or commented, but they have all the data. And so, I mean, I don't think it should be just based on my gut under 10, but based on the data, I think that it's fair to say that we can clearly improve the Amber Alert system, and we should, because I agree with you. There is very broad discretion in the law, and if they really had any possibility that they thought he could have been abducted, then they should have issued one. I wanted to just comment that I think that in general, law enforcement really did a disservice to the family if they really believe, he could have been abducted and they didn't have evidence, to the contrary for so many pieces. No Amber Alert, no confirming the neighbor sightings, no discussion at all about the timeline. And, I think if they really think that the family may not be involved and this was not abduction, those are all really red flags to anyone who follows law enforcement cases, because when there's any doubt in your mind for a 5-year-old, you should issue an Amber Alert, and you should speak out and say neighbors saw him at 6:30, or, neighbors saw him that evening, and they never confirmed or said any of those things. But I did want to ask you something, because you mentioned that you have kind of taken a volunteer PR role, helping with, interviews. And I guess I have 2 questions. One might be before your time, but like the first one is why they did no interviews for like the first 100 days, the family, but also like the police really seemed to shut down and move to Facebook posts. I believe that was August 12th, really quickly, and stop having briefings. They declined all interview requests. Like, it just seemed like there was like a media blackout for quite some time. And even still, if the police wanted to call more attention to Michael being missing, they could do briefings. They could just do interviews with national media. that and often are very friendly, and they haven't done that. So I'm just wondering what your take is on why there hasn't been a lot of mainstream media outreach in this case.
Sure. Those are all good questions, and it seems very multifaceted. First, I'll speak to, I think that, as everyone's aware, Fruitland is a rural area, and I'm not certain if there is honestly like a public information officer at the city level or county level, for that matter. Like how, for example, when I emailed myself, the Idaho State Coordinator, my response came from Lynn Hightower, the state public information officer. Typically, there are ones. I know in Boise there's one at the city level. So for the most case, like if there isn't a publicist pushing it, it's not going to get pushed in the public, period. And that's for anything. And second, I really haven't spoken to the police, so I don't know, how much, how much or why. I can have my own like professional PR opinions, which really just goes to, I think they don't have anyone in office working on it, making it a priority for public transparency. And then second to that, I think, just having my father being a retired police officer, my gut always
Oh
kind
my
of goes back
gosh.
to that Michael's safe recovery is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's not. She's twisting it. I recently just found out that, actually. Okay, well, look, if you're going to be pushing for this reform, marketing, media, PR, like, I even took basic PR class this week. I'm not trying to be ugly. I really am not. But I even took my minor classes. You major in accounting. I minored in marketing. It doesn't make sense. You have to have all of those facts before you go out with these people and talk about these things. Just like the bare minimum. So I don't know what her MO is. You know what I mean? Like I'm not understanding.
Above and beyond the ultimate goal, beyond the rest of the world getting a play-by-play on what's happening. Why I don't disagree with some of you on some of the points that have been shared on, maybe some information should or should not have. I really can't speak to the case because I don't know. Like I've followed, what they've released in the press, so that way I could get accurate information in order to help do what I can do and try to connect, for larger, more exposure and interviews. So yeah, I think that's kind of why, if that answers your question.
I guess I know there's a lot of people with their hands up, so I'm going to jump off real quick. But I guess, there's still a question remaining, regardless of them not doing interviews for like 100 days.
Oh, yes, that portion. Sorry. Yes, you did. Let me speak to that. You
Yeah.
did ask that first, and I got off on the.
I kind of asked a lot of questions, so I get it.
So no, that's okay. Yeah, because you had two parts there. And you're right. That is really before I kind of came into helping with things, and before really where I started getting into it was at Christmas Eve. I helped coordinate the Christmas Eve vigil, and that's when I met the family for the first time ever. So yeah, I think that's about more than the 13 weeks ago or whatever someone was tweeting about today. But in my opinion, I think that there was a lot of, there's a lot of chaos that goes to the trauma of such an event. And I know the family gets bombarded and they had a lot of requests. I don't know if they were advised to not do interviews. I don't know that for a fact. I don't. But I think it was just really about the focus on Michael and really not knowing what to do. And when I reached out and interjected myself and introduced myself to Brandy and said, hey, I don't have an opinion one way or the other, and I'm going to try my best. And I do have some opinions. Clearly, I'm human, but I want to help get these stories out for Michael, and I want to help with the Amber Alert because that's what I can do. Then we started to pick up a lot more, interviews and exposure, and a lot of the people in the group stepped in because they saw, like many of you, that it takes the power of many to email the same outlet before you get one interview or you get one meeting with the congressman.
Up and turned in no later than January 19th at noon.
In a bigger way than we've been able to accomplish thus far, because it's
You
going
can
to be
go watch the
drama,
nitty gritty,
right?
okay?
It's going to be that PR, that push. So, but yeah, if anyone on this call or anyone out there, like my DMs are open. We've all done the outreach. We all have the
Like the city council for Idaho, it's for she was going to go for Amber Alert reform. Sorry, I should have said that.
city council for Idaho.
Yeah, it was a city council. It was a committee meeting. Hold on, it was a city council meeting on January 24th at 7 p.m. Michael's mom would have to have something written up and turned in by January 19th at noon in order for it to be heard at the meeting. She wanted me to let you know about it. We're also
what city? Are you saying Fruitland City?
No, this was for I believe it was Boise.
All right, I'm just going to cut to the chase. You can go, because it's already an hour and a half. Look, you can do this yourself. You can go onto this Twitter space, and around 1 hour and 20 minutes, 1 hour and 15 minutes onward, you're going to hear excuses about why she didn't hear why Brandy did not go to these meetings that were set up. There were a lot of opportunities for Brandy to go and push the reform that she is so adamant about over and over and over and over. But yet she fails to follow through when they are there for her. It happened. Okay? I'll show you. Damn it, I did it again. And I'm going to pull up the tweet that kind of shows that. Because it's important. Like, the whole point is that
It's Brandy, the third person.
you need to, if you're going to tell people that we need to push for reform and making it seem like nothing is happening, you know what I'm saying? If you're saying that nothing's happening when you had opportunities, you're misleading. And so why would anybody trust what you're going to say about this case, about your own son? And that is a perfectly legitimate question to ask.
It reviewed the Amber Alert system criteria and made changes or whatnot. And that's, like I said in the earlier part of the conversation, what prompted me to contact a cousin of mine that works in the State House and ask how to get a hold of the congressman to get them involved. And I know, like I said, thus far, Brandy filled out the application. She's working with me with them to get an appointment, and that's all I can speak to. I don't know anything about any of this other stuff.
Yeah, I think we're talking about, two different things. So the initial one was the committee meeting that they looked up in December, and it had a deadline. And then the committee meeting was the end of January that she was going to get some help with, but the deadline wasn't met. That's the one that I think you've referenced that we've been talking about here the last couple of days, because we didn't know that you guys were waiting for a scheduled meeting with the congressman. There was no way for us to know that. And I can only speak for myself. I can't see the Facebook page. So if that's the only place that it's posted, I'm blocked from all of them. So
Yeah, well, that's also because, just so you know, to speak to that, we haven't done any kind of press release or anything because this is all ongoing and just happened in recent weeks. And the plan is and was to try to do like a
Hi,
press
Brooke. Hi,
release
Mallory.
in order to get it out there on the news wire and maybe grab the attention of some of those larger national outlets once they meet with the congressman's office, once that's happened. So, yeah.
right. And you said that you got so remind me one more time, and then I'll let people ask their questions. I just wanted to make sure that you and Crystal were on the same page, that you guys were talking about two different things, and it wasn't like a city council meeting. It's a committee meeting for the Amber Alert committee. You said that you got the response back from them. They want to review his thing.
Yeah, here's the point. Like, Amber Alerts, of course you want to get them some way, somehow, but the most important thing about Amber Alerts is because of the notoriety of them and how fast they should get out to people. You have a very limited amount of time. Hi, checking. No worries, no worries. Thank you for joining in. I'm gonna have to wrap this up within like 5 minutes, but the whole point is to get that out within that, especially that first 48 hours to 72 hours, right? You want that. Sooner the better. The longer, the less, the chances kind of dwindle a little bit. So my point is that right now, yes, work on that. Yes, it's very important, and do what you say you're going to do. But there's other things to do. Physical things. It's not a waste of time to go over the same areas unless you know something different. I've been looking at this couple that live down the way, and almost closer to the school. It's very interesting what happened to them around the same day. Very interesting. And I just wonder, do y'all believe in coincidences? If you believe in coincidences, put 1 in the chat. If you do not believe in coincidences, put 2 in the chat. And if you just don't know, 3, whatever. You just tell me. If you believe in them, push 1. If you don't, push 2. If 3 for who cares. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. 3. Fair enough. Fair enough. Hi, Theresa. Yeah, I don't either. I'm a 2. I don't. Yeah, I think they're back at work. Sleuthy's here. Dope Soul is one of them, at Dope Soul. And then what you do is just follow what they have been commenting on, and then you know who to follow. Yeah, there's some consistencies in the way that this couple that I noticed down the way from them, that they may or may not have been close to at one time. I'm not really sure. But it's very interesting, the connections that they have between each other and what happened to said particular couple on July 27th. So I think that is something I need to work on and wrap this up. But let's get to the nitty-gritty of what we really need to do.
Volunteer in my spare time.
And talk about. And what I'm getting at is that it got heated because, each side, right? Nicole's team and Lana's team, who is Brandy and family, are trying to prove to each other their truth. The only difference is that Nicole's team is telling the truth. And then once that truth is said about, look, Brandy had chances to go and meet with this legislation, to get this ball rolling and talk about these things and get that out there. And Lana basically said, well, they have school, kids, excuses. It was excuse after excuse. And
they are not from Idaho.
Here we go.
State police who you need to talk to as to who's looking into it or not looking into it, because I don't have that answer, but I would recommend going to those websites. I know that the FBI has an office in Boise even. I don't know if they have like an office closer to that rural region or where FBI may be pulled from, but
it's in Boise.
My guess would be Boise.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've been referencing everyone kind of going in the direction of FBI. I know that
other people's wives, they
You might know more than me, but I seem to recall reading in a local publication, and when I say local, I mean the Idaho, Treasure Valley, that there was FBI involved from the beginning.
Hi. Thank you. I guess I just have a question about what exactly right now is Brandy and her family doing to find Michael. I understand that Amber Alert is absolutely necessary and the work you're doing is so important.
Hoorah.
And there's many, like others have said, that are also working on it because we've seen week in, week out, day in, day out, it's such a cluster across our nation. But that's going to take time, like Mike said. So
Blue
I was
hearts
wondering,
for Michael, please.
other than future interviews you may have lined up and things like that, if they're not have a PI, and you actually just said you know a couple PIs, like what are they doing right now? What action is this family taking to find their son?
Yes. That is a very good question. And just to touch on the
It
PI
is a
thing, I do
very
know a
good
couple PIs,
question.
but they weren't going to work for free. And I didn't take that to the family.
There have been multiple opportunities, guys. Multiple opportunities to get help with a PI. And Brandy specifically said to that in a Facebook post, they have to work with law enforcement. Okay, cool. Great. Cool. Duh. Not trying to be rude, but yeah, we know. And, the person said, well, I'm not going to tell them that, and da-da-da-da-da, and basically just said, oh, they can go fuck themselves. Oh, my God. I have to laugh because it's just, I don't know what I would tell Michael if he walked up. What do you tell him? I don't know. It hurts. It hurts to not see more people invested in this case, first of all, because they automatically assume that this is a cut and dry issue and the fairy dust, if you will, has been sprinkled upon the people because the parents of Summer Wells smells like shit. Looks like it. But on this side, on this case, it doesn't. It's sprinkles and rainbows and beautifully colored posters and bracelets. It looks good. It smells good. Feels good. Unlike these other cases. That's what it is, guys. In my opinion. I really, 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 really hope that if you're undecided, I don't want you to pick sides. I want you to pick Michael Vaughan's side. That's all I want you all to do. And that is all these ladies are trying to do. Sorry. I just can't imagine. I don't like to judge. I hate it. It makes me feel awful. I don't like being in this predicament where I have to be someone that I don't like being. But as a medium, you know. But you have to know with receipts. And I played the game of spirit is wrong. I am having issues because of my own son. But you know what you know. And this shit stinks. And it always has. Always has. And I don't think being afraid is enough justification to not do action. Maybe it's okay to shoot at the hip when you're fighting with your bare hands in the air. I'm sorry, guys. I want you all to have a very happy day. I'll be fine. We gotta find this little boy. I really thought that Summer Wells' case was going to help that. And maybe it just takes something out of the norm. Maybe this is what divine timing was about, that I've been told to wait. And then whenever it was time to act, I feel like things are in motion with this case. So maybe it was the opposite of what I always thought. I always thought that Summer Wells was going to be the launching pad for all of these other missing children. Maybe she's the one that wraps it up and changes everything. Like a completion, like that final step to change, reform. Maybe it's the opposite of what I thought or what we thought. It really doesn't matter. They all matter. But this is like one of the biggest manipulations I have ever seen since the Kaylee Anthony case. Because I knew that she wasn't going to get Kaylee wasn't going to get justice. And I don't want that for Michael. So we really need to work hard. And the one thing that I refuse to do anymore is to acknowledge anything that comes on that side. I am here for Michael. And that's that. It is that simple. Things get a lot clearer when I don't hear from that side. And it makes me sad that I have to say that side. There's 2 people in that house that were adults, that are our adults, that were there that day. You're either here for Michael or you're not. And your lack of presence shows everybody the truth. And do not confuse my emotion with backing down. Do not confuse that. It has just begun.